My sister despised how close I was to our grandmother. After she died, my sister tried convincing everyone I manipulated her for inheritance. But when the lawyer revealed the video will, recorded by Grandma herself, her lies shattered, and the truth about our lifelong rivalry finally came out. I still remember the night my sister slammed the bedroom door so hard the frame rattled. I was sitting on Grandma's lap, listening to her soft humming, when the sound cut through the house like a warning bell. My sister's footsteps stormed down the hallway, and even at that young age I knew it wasn't just anger, it was jealousy. That moment stayed with me because it was the first time I realized how much my closeness with Grandma unsettled her. Grandma was my safe place. She had this way of making me feel seen even when the rest of the family brushed me aside. I was a quiet child, often lost in my own thoughts, but Grandma never treated my silence as weakness. She'd sit with me in the kitchen, flour dusting her apron, and let me stir the batter while she told stories about her childhood. "Patience makes the cake rise," she'd say, smiling as if the lesson was about more than baking. Those afternoons were ours alone, and though I didn't notice it then, my sister would linger in the doorway, arms crossed, watching us with narrowed eyes. Her resentment grew in small, sharp ways. She'd roll her eyes when Grandma praised me, or mutter under her breath when I was chosen to help set the table. Once during a family game of charades she refused to join because Grandma picked me first. "You always choose her," she snapped, glaring at both of us. Grandma tried to soothe her, but the bitterness in my sister's tone was impossible to ignore. I felt torn, guilty for being loved so openly, yet unwilling to give up the bond that meant everything to me. Family gatherings only made the divide clearer. Relatives would laugh at how much I resembled Grandma in mannerisms and habits. "She's your little shadow," they'd tease. My sister would sit stiffly, stabbing at her food, pretending not to care. One Christmas dinner she finally broke. Grandma had handed me a small locket, engraved with initials, and my sister slammed her fork down. "Why does she always get something special?" she demanded, her voice sharp enough to silence the room. The adults exchanged uneasy glances, but no one addressed it. They brushed it off as sibling rivalry, leaving me to absorb the sting of her words. That night, I lay awake wondering why love could feel like a crime in her eyes. Grandma, however, understood more than she let on. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sun dip below the horizon, she spoke quietly. "Kindness is often punished by jealousy," she said, her gaze steady. I didn't fully grasp the meaning, but the weight in her voice made me pause. She was warning me, though I didn't realize it then. Her words would echo years later, when the rivalry turned into something far more destructive. The last summer before everything changed is etched in my memory. I spent weeks at Grandma's house, waking up to the smell of fresh bread and the sound of birds outside her window. We planted flowers in the garden, painted old furniture, and shared secrets over cups of tea. My sister rarely visited. When she did, she stayed distant, scrolling through her phone or retreating to the guest room. One afternoon, Grandma asked her to join us in baking pies. My sister refused, saying she had better things to do. I saw the disappointment flicker across Grandma's face, but she didn't push. Instead, she turned back to me, handing me the rolling pin with a smile. That summer was filled with small joys, late-night card games, whispered stories, and the comfort of knowing I belonged somewhere. Yet beneath it all, I sensed the widening gap between my sister and me. She wasn't just jealous anymore. She was building a wall, brick by brick, shutting herself out of the bond we shared. I tried reaching out once, offering to walk with her to the park, but she brushed me off. "Go with Grandma," she said coldly. "That's what you always do." I didn't argue. I simply walked away, the sting of her rejection settling deep inside me. Looking back, I realized that summer marked the point of no return. My sister's bitterness had hardened, and my closeness with Grandma had become the battlefield neither of us acknowledged but both of us felt. The summer of warmth and laughter ended abruptly with a phone call that shattered me. Grandma was gone. I remember standing in the hallway, clutching the receiver, unable to breathe. The house felt hollow, as if the walls themselves had absorbed the silence of her absence. My sister walked past me, her expression unreadable, and for a fleeting moment I thought she might comfort me. Instead she muttered, "Well, it was bound to happen," and disappeared into her room. The funeral was a blur of black clothes, murmured condolences, and the scent of lilies that clung to the air. I sat near the front, staring at the polished wood of the casket, my hands trembling. My sister sat 2 rows back, her posture stiff, her eyes darting not toward the casket but toward the relatives gathered around. While I wept quietly, she seemed to be calculating, her gaze lingering on certain faces as though she were already planning her next move. When the service ended, she didn't approach me. Instead, I overheard her whispering to an aunt, her tone sharp. You know, Grandma was too easily swayed. She gave everything to her favorite. At first, I dismissed it as grief twisting her words. But the whispers grew louder. Cousins began asking me strange questions. Did you really spend that much time alone with her? Did she ever talk about money with you? Their voices carried suspicion, and I felt the sting of humiliation. My sister had planted seeds of doubt, and they were sprouting quickly. One evening, I overheard two relatives in the kitchen. She probably manipulated her, one said, lowering her voice. That bond wasn't natural. I froze, the words slicing through me. Manipulated? The thought was absurd, yet it spread like wildfire. I tried to confront my sister. Why are you saying these things? I demanded, cornering her in the hallway. She smirked, her eyes cold. I don't have to say much. People already see how you clung to her. It doesn't look good. Her confidence rattled me. She wasn't grieving, she was strategizing. Every word she spoke was designed to tarnish me, to turn love into suspicion. The tension reached its peak when the lawyer summoned us for the reading of Grandma's will. The office smelled faintly of leather and old paper, the kind of place where secrets were revealed and lives changed. My sister walked in with a smile that didn't belong at such a solemn moment. She sat across from me, her chin lifted, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. I could feel the weight of relatives' stares pressing against me, their doubt lingering in the air. The lawyer cleared his throat, shuffling papers. My sister leaned back, arms crossed as if victory was already hers. I sat rigid, my palms damp, bracing myself for whatever accusations she had prepared. The silence before the announcement was unbearable, stretching like a taut string ready to snap. Then, instead of reading from the papers, the lawyer reached for a small device. Your grandmother left a video message, he said. The room fell still. My sister's smirk faltered, but she quickly masked it. The screen flickered and then Grandma appeared. Her familiar face, her gentle smile, her voice steady. If you are watching this, she began, it means I am no longer with you. I wanted to speak for myself so there would be no confusion. My chest tightened. Hearing her voice again was both comforting and devastating. She spoke clearly, explaining her decisions with calm authority. She mentioned the bond we shared, acknowledging the time we spent together. I know some may think I favored her, she said, her eyes steady, but love cannot be measured in fairness. I chose what felt right and I did so with full awareness. She paused, her gaze softening. Jealousy has lingered in this family for years. I hope this truth will bring peace, not division. The words struck the room like a storm. My sister's face drained of color, her lips pressed tightly together. The relatives who had doubted me shifted uncomfortably, their whispers silenced. Grandma had not only defended me, she had exposed the rivalry for what it was. She had seen through my sister's bitterness all along. The lawyer let the video play until the end, where Grandma offered a final message. Remember me with kindness. Do not let envy destroy what remains of this family. The screen went dark and the silence that followed was deafening. I looked around the room. Some relatives avoided my gaze, ashamed of their earlier suspicions. Others nodded faintly as if acknowledging the truth they had ignored. My sister sat frozen, her hands clenched, her eyes refusing to meet mine. The power she had wielded through lies dissolved in an instant. The shift was palpable. Where there had been doubt, there was now clarity. Where there had been whispers, there was now silence. My sister's pale face told me everything. Her plan had crumbled, her lies exposed. For the first time she was the one cornered and I was free from the weight of her accusations. That moment changed everything. The battle she had started ended not with my words but with Grandma's. It was as if she had reached back from beyond, shielding me one last time. And though grief still pressed heavily on my heart, there was a strange sense of relief. The truth had spoken and it could not be undone. The silence in the lawyer's office lingered long after the video ended. My sister's face was pale, her lips pressed so tightly they seemed bloodless. She avoided my eyes, but I could feel the weight of her defeat hanging in the air. That was the moment her downfall began, not with a dramatic outburst, but with the quiet collapse of her carefully built lies. In the weeks that followed, her reputation unraveled piece by piece. Friends who once entertained her gossips stopped returning her calls. Relatives who had believed her whispers now kept their distance, embarrassed by their own gullibility. At family gatherings she sat alone, her voice sharp when she tried to speak, but no one listened anymore. I didn't need to confront her. The truth had already done the work. Watching her lash out only to be met with silence was a strange kind of justice. My revenge was not loud. I didn't gloat, didn't throw her betrayal back in her face. Instead, I chose silence. Every time she tried to provoke me, I simply walked away. That silence became heavier than any words I could have spoken. It was my quiet revenge, letting her stew in the emptiness she had created for herself. I remember one evening when she cornered me in the hallway, her voice trembling with anger. "You think you've won," she spat. I looked at her calmly and said nothing. My silence was the answer, and it cut deeper than any insult. As her bitterness consumed her, something unexpected happened. Family members began reaching out to me. One by one they apologized for doubting me. My aunt called late one night, her voice soft. "I should have known better," she admitted. "Your grandmother trusted you, and I should have trusted her judgment." Those words lifted a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. Slowly, the cracks in my relationships began to mend. One cousin who had once repeated my sister's accusations came to visit. We sat in the garden, the air heavy with the scent of blooming jasmine. "I believed her," he confessed, shame flickering in his eyes. "I thought you were trying to take advantage." "I was wrong." I nodded, not with anger but with relief. That conversation marked the beginning of healing, not just for me but for the family that had been fractured by lies. Amidst the rebuilding, I discovered something that changed everything. Among the boxes Grandma left behind, I found her journals. They were worn, the pages filled with her neat handwriting. At first, I hesitated to read them, afraid of what I might find. But curiosity won, and soon I was immersed in her thoughts. She had written about her childhood, her struggles, her joys, but also about us. One entry stopped me cold. "I see the rivalry between the girls," she wrote. "It pains me, but I know the truth will reveal itself one day. Love cannot be forced and jealousy cannot be hidden." Reading those words, I realized she had seen everything. She had known my sister's resentment, had understood the storm brewing beneath the surface. Yet she had chosen to trust me not because I asked for it but because she saw my heart. Her journals became more than keepsakes, they were lessons. In them she spoke of patience, resilience, and the importance of kindness even when faced with cruelty. Each page felt like a conversation with her, as if she were guiding me from beyond. I carried those lessons with me, letting them shape the way I moved forward. Closure didn't come all at once. It arrived in small moments, like the day I walked past my sister in the street and felt nothing but calm. Or the evening I sat with family, laughing freely, no longer shadowed by suspicion. Jealousy had poisoned her, but it no longer touched me. The truth had prevailed, and with it came peace. I often sit with Grandma's locket in my hands, the one she gave me that Christmas long ago. It reminds me that love is not measured by possessions or inheritance, but by the bonds we nurture. My bond with her lives on, not in wealth but in the wisdom she left me. Looking back, I see the rivalry for what it was. A battle my sister could never win because it was never about money. It was about love, and love cannot be stolen, twisted, or destroyed. It endures even when jealousy tries to smother it. And so I move forward. Not with bitterness, not with anger, but with the quiet strength Grandma taught me. My sister may still carry her resentment, but I carry something far greater. The peace of knowing that truth in the end always finds its way.